The SSL Oracle. What changed and why have I now bought one? So let me tell you a quick story. Start this video with a story, and that was that I went down to Real World Studio for the kind of the demo, the announcement of the SSL Oracle console. I went down to that, and the console was good. The console looked great. The demonstration was good, and kind of I walked out of there thinking it's very expensive for what it is. And the majority of pretty much the majority of the people on the internet kind of said the same thing. And I kind of was like, yeah, it's very expensive. It's £105,000. And the way I saw it was we're talking £105,000 for a 24 channel console with EQs, no dynamics. It's got a bus comp, and then 24 mic pre's. And I kind of looked at that and went, oh, it's a lot of money for that. I could build that modular. I've got that already. I've got all of everything everything you're offering there. I've already got in here. Digital recall. It was a good console, but I walked away from that demonstration thinking it's very expensive for what it is. But I gave it a chance, and I looked at it, and I was like, you know, if I was going to buy a console, this is the console I'd get, because I want digital recall stuff. Now, the reason, firstly, I want digitally recallable console is because in mastering, fine, we don't need digitally recallable gear, but so much in mastering. In mixing, it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how good you are, you will always need to recall a mix. So in mixing senses, I need all this gear to be digitally recallable. That's why this studio is digitally recallable. Studio A, we've got non-digitally recallable gear. But a console, basically, the more I looked at it, I kind of looked at it, and I watched actually the Jungle City video, which was really good. That was actually a really good demonstration. So I watched that one, and I kind of went, well, okay, yeah, there's a few more features that I didn't quite get to see or hear about in the demonstration down at Real World. So I thought, right, okay, the best way to actually go about this is to now go down to SSL. Before I go and drop £105,000, I want to go and I want to feel what this console's like. I want to see what it's like. I want to understand it and know what I'm buying. And SSL, obviously, if you're spending that sort of money, very accommodating when it comes to that. So went down to SSL, sat with Neil, who is the developer and the designer of the console. We sat together for probably 5 hours easily. Went through pretty much everything. I left that demonstration thinking it was underpriced. And that's my honest opinion once I left that demonstration. Once I actually saw every single feature that it could do, what it could do, how advanced it is, I sat there going, well, this has blown AWS out the water. Like, who's going to buy an AWS when this exists? And then I was thinking, throw dynamics on that, it destroys Duality as well. Now, when you think Duality, it's got EQ and compression on, I think a 24 channel, is it 24 channels I think it's about £250,000, which is, look, all of these consoles, an SSL console is a lot of money. But one thing you've got to bear in mind with all these consoles is these are the flagships, right? And then it all trickles down to kind of, you may see at some point, now I've got zero knowledge on this and no prior knowledge at all, but you may see a digitally recallable single channel strip. SSL did it with the, I think it was called the Alpha, was it Alpha channel strip? It was X-Logic Alpha channel strip, and it was a proper SSL channel strip. Now, there's no reason a channel strip can't come out that's digitally recallable by SSL. All these things, a fusion. Inside the Oracle is a bus comp. It's got an SSL Bus Plus in it with a dynamic EQ as well. That will most probably trickle down into a nice 19-inch rack version. There's no reason all these things won't happen. The EQ could most probably be a digitally recallable EQ. The technology, this is the thing, is the technology's there now, and it's just a case of doing it. So that's one thing for everyone who's moaning about how expensive this console is. That's something to look forward to. The technology's there now that one day, I don't know when, but there will be all these different components that are more affordable. So yeah, I left the demonstration at SSL thinking it should have been priced a lot higher. I even voiced that opinion to Neil, and I said to him, look, this for what you actually get with this console, in terms of functionality as well, it's incredibly well priced. And at 105, that's eye-watering amounts of money for anyone. But from a business, like from my perspective, from a business perspective, you know, you're getting 20% off of that with the VAT. So that comes back within 3 months. You know, that takes a little bit of that money off. And then it's what it represents. So for me, what it represents is I'm nearly 40. I want an SSL console. I always said I recently said by the time I'm 40, I want an SSL console. And I could have bought any SSL. I talked about buying a few years ago, buying a Duality console when I was putting this studio in. I ended up going with the Avid S4 because I just didn't want to go down that route of recalling stuff by hand. I hate it. And it's a pain. And ultimately, when you have to recall things by hand and it takes an hour to recall a session, ultimately that cost and that time, these money, gets passed on to the client. So the client ends up paying for the time that it takes you to recall the session because you're not as efficient. So that's why I've gone down this route of all the digitally recallable modular kind of setup. But now we have this console that's digitally recallable, and so I wanted to now just what I'll say is what are the reasons why I now think it's reasonably priced for what it is. So what you have is you've got a 24 channel console. Now that 24 channel inline console is actually 48 channels at mixing. So what that means, you have small fader, you have big fader, basically 2 faders. The good thing about it is you've got a button which you can press, and big fader becomes small fader, and small fader becomes big fader, and you can flip them. So that means you're always working on the faders. So you're always working on those big faders. Now the large fader, for instance, down the bottom, you're working on that. Small fader at the top. Flip those. You know, small fader is large fader. So now, what's really good about it is usually what happens with the small fader is it's kind of just for summing. So you don't have an insert, you don't have a direct out, you can't really do anything with it other than some 24 channels. That's usually how it works. Whereas on this console, the small fader and the large fader are basically the same. You can put the filter, the EQ, and the insert. That can all go on the small fader, or it can go on the big fader, however you want it. Now, the good thing about this is you've now got 48 channels, but the small fader also has a direct out and it has an insert. So small fader and large fader both have direct outs and inserts. Now what this means is basically, for my purpose and what I'm going to do, I'm going to have the first 24 channels on my small fader, for instance, they are going to be full of West Audio EQs and compressors. So I'll have 24 channels of West Audio EQ and compression and summing to my buses on the console. Then on my large fader, I'll have 24 channels of SSL EQ. I'll then have 24 channels of West Audio compression. So you'll have 48 channels of EQ and compression. Now what's good about this is on the console, you can do any amount of routing of that channel strip. So for instance, the EQ can be before the filter, the EQ can be after the filter, before the compressor, after the compressor. You can flip everything around and move it all around. It's incredible what you can do. So that, in terms of flexible routing, is amazing. Now, a lot of this is unheard of inside a console like this. But it's possible within a digital kind of a fully analog console with what is essentially a controller. The other things that you've got is, because it has direct outs, I can use this whilst Dolby Atmos mixing. So I can use this console and direct out back in to the into the DAW for my Atmos rendering. Perfect. It gives me so much. It's going to be so flexible in what it can do. Another really cool feature with it, and this was one I was impressed with, was so you had so let's say stereo linking channels. You've got 24 channels, and we want to link channels 1 and 2. We want to link those together as a stereo channel. Now, usually what would happen is you'd have your left and right, you'd hard pan left and right on the console. Channel 1, hard pan left. Channel 2, hard pan right. Whereas what you do with the SSL Oracle is you just have one channel and you go stereo linked. Now, when it's stereo linked, you have one channel strip that's now controlled. The EQ controls that. The pan is controlled as a stereo pan, and it takes up one slot. And then if you have a mono, that's taking up one slot next. Another mono, one slot. Put stereo, one slot. So everything's taking up one slot. It's not taking up two channels on the console. So you could use, if you had 24 channels, you could actually split. You could have 12. I don't know. Let's say for instance, 12 stereo channel strips across those 16 faders. The other good thing about it is you've got 30. I think it was. I need to check this. I need to get my head around the buses a little bit, but I feel like you've got 32 channels of buses, and on those 32 channels of buses, what I'm going to personally do is put all my kind of bus processing, which is going to be my drum bus, my vocal bus, all these different buses, bass bus, whatever. All these different buses are going to then be on the buses. Then on the mix bus, you've got your bus compressor, and then you've got your dynamic EQ as well. And that sounds amazing. I was really impressed with how that sounded. But all in all, this is the thing. It's so well thought out. And these are a small amount of features that I've actually looked at and kind of, once I get my hands on it, and my consoles come in ready around September, midway through September, my console arrives. And I'm building it into my brand new studio. So I'm building my dream studio, which is going to have the console as the centerpiece, all this gear. I'm going to keep the PMCs, put the PMCs into that room. And then it's going to be this just amazing studio. This is the other thing. Now, the thing with the control aspect of it, the controlling the console, it uses Huey, so it's as good as a UF8 when it comes to control. And the UF8 is going to be perfect for 99% of people. It's going to be perfectly fine. People are going to love that. If you've got a UF8 and you've used the door control for that, you're going to go, yeah, that's really good door control. Like, it's controlling the door. Love it. Perfectly fine. The problem for me is I've been using an Avid S4 for best part of 4 years or so now. And the problem you have with the Avid S4 is once you go and work on an S4 or an S6, any of the Avid consoles, it's very difficult to not have it. Now, workflow wise, it saves you so much time. And the Oracle console's Huey control for door control is perfectly fine, but it's not the Avid S4. Now, originally I thought to myself, well, what's going to happen is I'll get if I get an Oracle, I'll sell the S4. Now I've got to look at ways of incorporating the S4 and the Oracle into the same room, which I've got ideas on how to do that. I'm going to have the Oracle in the middle, I'm going to have the master section to the left, and then I'm going to have the two fader channels on the right. So it's just basically splitting that console into two sections. And I think that will work. That's probably the way I'm going to work it. But it does mean that I've got to keep both the Oracle and the S4, which is kind of annoying. The reason it's only kind of annoying is in a way I don't have to go through the whole process of trying to sell the S4, and I never really wanted to sell it because you're never going to recoup your money on that and you know, I paid like, it was like £40,000 for that console, and I probably get about 20, if that, for it. So I want to keep it because it's basically brand new to me. So yeah, the Oracle console, in all seriousness, is the most incredible console you will ever use. And I hear a lot of people online saying that it's way overpriced, and you know, it is expensive. It's not way overpriced, I can tell you that. But then these people don't have much experience on what that console can actually do. Once, and I was the same. Look, I was the same. I was that guy that said this is way overpriced. I said that. Um, but after I actually used it, got to know it, understood it, and saw what it could actually do, I was like, wow, yeah, okay, this should be priced a lot more, in my opinion, because it's unbelievable. It really is. So yeah, I've got my SSL Oracle arriving September. I think we're going to buy Nick's one maybe in the new year. We'll see how we get on with that. And in all fairness, I think Nick will want one once he starts using and looking at mine. Um, or we might go for a different console. Hopefully, a company like, I don't know, Neve will come out with a fully 100% digitally recallable, not a Genesis. I don't want a Genesis. For anyone in the comments goes, oh, why don't you just buy a Genesis? No, not a Genesis. Genesis sounds great, and it's a really good console. It's just not. It's not digitally recallable in the way that I would like it to be. So yeah, the SSL Oracle is unreal how good it is. Yeah, so that's why I've kind of U-turned a little bit on buying an SSL Oracle, and I've ordered it. It's coming in September, and I'm now the proud owner of the first SSL Oracle in the UK, and that's a nice feeling.